Hello, welcome to tonight's Science and Health Career Informational Session for Science and Health Career Pathways. My name's Mary Beulah, and I'm the director of Erie Together, which is a countywide movement heavily focused on helping more students become successful adults. As part of my role, I facilitate the Erie County Career Pathways Alliance, which is a group of local school districts, employers, universities, and workforce developers, all working together to help students prepare for future careers. Tonight's session is our second of 5, each focusing on a different career pathway. Based on registrations, we're expecting students and parents from at least 6 different school districts and the Perseus House Charter School of Excellence. We're really happy to have you all here with us tonight. For those students who couldn't attend, we are recording this session to make it available to all the school districts after the event concludes. Our goal tonight is to help you understand the opportunities that exist in the science and health career pathway, which includes agriculture, food and natural resources, and health sciences, and scientific research. We want to touch on what students should do to prepare for careers, highlight some of the jobs that exist, and give you the opportunity to learn from our panelists' experience. We've assembled a great team of speakers for you tonight, and we want you to ask them any questions that you have while we have them all together. So we've structured tonight's session pretty tightly, starting with speaker introductions and a presentation on industry insights from Janet Anderson of Northwest PA Job Connect, our public workforce system. We will then turn to our panelists with a series of questions we've developed and others that you submit. If you have questions you'd like to pose to any of our panelists, please type them into the chat so we can raise them for you. Please understand that if you are here and can hear us, your technology is working. Here are some additional things you should know to help ensure today's session goes well. First of all, panelists, please make sure your camera is turned on and your microphone is muted, and remember to unmute yourself when you're speaking. Students and families, your cameras and microphones have been disabled, so when you want to ask a question, you'll be using the chat function to do that. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, we are recording this session so we can provide the video to school districts afterwards so they can share it with more students. Now, here's how the chat works. The chat feature is located in the main bar at the bottom of your screen, and it's labeled chat. When you have a question, please click on the chat button and type it in. If you want to direct your question to a certain panelist, please include his or her name with your question, but if your question's for anyone, just type it in and we'll take it from there. We have an hour set aside for tonight, and if we run out of questions before then, we'll wrap up early. But if we run out of time, we'll provide your questions to the panelists after the event for their response. So before we start, let's just have everyone try out their chat. Please type in how many parents are with you for tonight's session, anywhere from 0 on up. Excellent, thank you very much. So finally, before we move into the discussion, I want to thank 2 people who have volunteered tonight to help make sure everything runs smoothly. The first is Jackie Catcherbone of Strategy Solutions, who's providing technical assistance for the webinar to make sure everything goes well. And the second is Jennifer Ponzer, Director of Erie Together's Career Street program, who's monitoring the chat for your questions. So Jackie and Jen, thank you so much for your help tonight. Okay, it's time to get started. Panelists, please tell us your name, position, and a little bit about your background and what you do. I'm going to call on each of you individually, and I'm going to start with Sarah. Sarah, go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Bennett. I'm a campaign manager for clean water advocacy with Penn Future in Erie. I have a Bachelor's of Science and Master of Science degree in zoology from Michigan State University. And prior to this role that I just started in spring of this year, I was a faculty member in biology at Mercyhurst University for 12 years.
Thank you, Sarah. Dennis.
Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's healthy and happy. My name is Dr. Dennis Dirkmatt, and I teach at Mercyhurst University. I also run the program in Applied Forensic Sciences, in which we have an undergraduate and a graduate program, pretty successful ones. My background is that I have a PhD in anthropology from the University of Pittsburgh. And in addition to teaching, we also do a lot of forensic cases. I'm a board certified forensic anthropologist. So in the past, we've done, since I started at Mercyhurst 30 some years ago, we've done about 1,000 forensic cases, of which the students see great benefit.
Thank you. Lynn?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lynn Rupp. I'm one of the vice presidents at UPMC Hammett. I'm a physical therapist by background, but have done various things in administration throughout the years and worked with a number of different areas. And I'm really excited to be here this evening. I have a bachelor's degree in biology, a master's in physical therapy, and a master's in public administration. I'm also a Pitt grad, as Dennis mentioned. And I have here with me tonight Karen Morahan, who is from our nursing team and has a PhD in nursing and is starting our new nursing program. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Melanie?
Good evening. It's great to be here this evening. My name is Dr. Melanie Titzel. I work in the administrative team of LECOM's Institute for Successful Aging. I have a BA in Business Administration from Mercyhurst University, a master's in recreational therapy from Penn State University, and a PhD in organizational learning and leadership from Gannon University. I have several certifications I mentioned just to demonstrate it's okay to have a lot of interests. I'm a nursing home administrator and a personal care home administrator. I'm a certified dance teacher in tap, ballet, and jazz, and I'm a geriatric care manager. I spent 25 years of my career as vice president of senior retirement management and 5 years as director of operations for LECOM's senior living communities. Currently working in the educational areas at LECOM. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And Janet?
Good evening. I am Janet Anderson. I am the Executive Director of Northwest Pennsylvania Job Connect. We are the local public workforce board covering 6 counties here in Northwest Pennsylvania. My background is a bachelor's degree in accounting from Penn State. Sorry, Pitt grads, and friendly rivalry right there. I have spent very little time doing accounting, actually have spent most of my time in government, working in economic development and workforce development throughout most of my career, which is approaching 35 years. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks, everybody. So Janet, we're going to go ahead and get started with the questions, and we're going to start with you. And so what we really would like to hear from you is, based on local data and your experience, could you please share your insights on local employment opportunities, employer needs, and skills that employers are really interested in? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. All right, I'd be happy to cover those things. So as an adult, you spend about 25% of your time at work. So it's really important that you like what you do and know what you like. And we're going to talk more about that in a couple of minutes. As the local workforce development board, labor market information is one of the main things that we capture and share. What the data shows is the number of open positions, entry-level wages and salary, what an experience level wage and salary is, as well as any training required to reach those goals. We have positions in fields that are available right here in Northwest Pennsylvania with training locally, anywhere from work experience and on-the-job training to PhD level, and you've heard that in our panelists' introductions. Our wages and salaries in the occupations that we have here locally range from $20,000 a year for low education all the way up to well over $100,000 a year. I'm going to name a few of the occupations that are available right here in Northwest Pennsylvania. We have in the fields that we're talking about. We have nurses, contact tracers, which is a newer position, medical records specialists, therapists, dentists, dental hygienists, other positions in housekeeping, meal preparation, the business office, medical records, surveyors, drillers, chemical engineers, industrial or heavy truck drivers, lab technicians out in the field, and those are not in the hospital, but those are literally on the field, out in fields, maybe looking at chemicals, supervisors, farm workers, laborers, food manufacturing. We've all been aware of our wineries here locally, landscapers, groundskeepers, veterinarians, vet techs, managers, and so much more. Don't be afraid, I want to say to all of you, to explore lower level positions in any of these areas with a plan to move up, perhaps with the assistance of your employer. Many of us have had the pleasure of having our employers pay for additional certifications. So what are some of our employers' needs? One of the biggest things is that we have basic skills. Basic skills in math, verbal skills, reading, writing, communicating. You right now in school have great advantages of preparation and opportunities. Take advantage of those. Learn while you're in school. Career Street is an option for you while you're in school. It's one of the best programs around. You have the opportunity to learn about careers that are available right here in Northwest Pennsylvania from people that are in those careers. Explore those opportunities. You can explore careers virtually, in person, when we're able to get out and about safely. And you can meet people within the field of interest so that you can learn more about those opportunities. I mentioned that we have many occupations right here in Northwest Pennsylvania, and I merely scratched the surface. It's important for you to take the opportunity to learn more about each of those. And while you're doing that, you'll find that you will learn about yourself. Employers also need employees that know who they are and what they like. It's costly to hire an employee and then replace them. So take the opportunity to try things to determine what it is that you like. There are opportunities while you are in school for internships and co-ops. The opportunity to work. I often worked when I was young and did different things at the local Pizza Hut or otherwise, so that I learned more about myself. Teams, sports teams, clubs, volunteering, all help you to learn more about who you are and the things that you like. These are great ways for you to learn leadership skills, responsibility, and working and teamwork. Force yourself out of your comfort zone. That's when you'll learn most about yourself. You will learn things that you didn't even know about you. Mentors. Mentors are really important. Mentors at work, mentors at home. Your employer wants to know that you not only assessed yourself, but that you listen to other people around you. Your teachers are great mentors. Parents are great mentors. Your friends' parents are great mentors. Your boss, if you have a job. Your volunteer boss. Your grandparents, your neighbors, your pastor. Listen to all of them because sometimes they know you better than you know yourself. It's also important to realize that sometimes your mentors know you better than your parents as mentors know you. So listen to them and make sure that you hear what they're saying. They have your best interest in mind. I wouldn't be where I am today without listening to my mentors. I thought I knew I wanted to be an accountant, and when I finally got in and was 3 years into my schooling, I realized that was not exactly what I wanted to do. I finished it and continued into other directions where I could use those skills. Today, we know the importance of digital literacy, and employers know the importance of digital literacy. Things like tonight's meeting. If you are working in an office right now, you may not be there. And if you don't know how to use computer equipment or to connect, it would be a problem for you. So we know from this year the importance of using the computer and being digitally literate. Financial literacy. This is really important for you personally, but it's also important for your employer. And you might be asking why. Employers want happy people at their office. They want you to be happy while you're at work. If you're worried about how you're going to pay your bills, it will be difficult for you to be engaged in what's happening while you're at work. So make sure that you, if you're given the opportunity at school to learn financial literacy, that you take that opportunity. Employers want people that have initiative, people that are willing to learn and try new things. This will definitely separate you from the others that are applying for a position. If you have that initiative, it will come through early and often. They want employees that have honesty and integrity. And don't be afraid to fail. Learn from the failure, however, and better yourself afterwards. But there is not an employer on the planet that would be concerned about your small failure and not learning from that. Also, as you become an adult, it's important to keep a family balance. Again, getting back to that happy worker. So some of the skills and qualities that employers are looking for, interested in, and these tie back to what I just shared. They're looking for leaders, those individuals that have had the opportunity to lead. So again, take the opportunity to be on a team or be in a club or volunteer. They're looking for creative thinkers. They're looking for employees that have initiative, a strong work ethic, and also those individuals that really like what they do. So make sure you're listening to your mentors, your teachers, who are able to see who you are and help you determine a path forward. Invest in yourself. Education and continuing to find new skills is really critically important to your move up the career ladder. Remember, I said, don't be afraid to start low and learn about the position. As long as you are investing in you and gaining skills, you will move forward. Always do your best work and own your work. Employers are looking for individuals that are putting their best foot forward, and when you make a mistake, they're able to overlook those. Those are the things that employers are looking for today. They're not new. And you have a great opportunity while you're in school to really hone skills that employers are looking for and use Career Street as an opportunity to learn more about those careers. Thank you, Mary, for allowing me to be here this evening.
Thanks, Janet. Jen, do we have any questions in the chat for Janet about what she just talked about?
No questions for Janet. We have a question coming up for Lynn when she speaks, but nothing right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Sarah, then we're going to turn to you next. Okay, so you've spent most of your career as an instructor at the university level, and you ultimately rose to department chair of the biology department at Mercyhurst. Recently, though, you left higher education and you took a water quality conservation job at Penn Future. What are your job responsibilities at Penn Future, and what made you decide to pursue that kind of role?
So I'm going to answer your second question first, because it was a really big change for me. I really enjoyed teaching, and I think I would enjoy it now if I was still doing that. But I was getting more and more into environmental science and sustainability. And I felt like I wanted to be working in a field where I was doing a little bit more hands-on work to address some of the issues that I was teaching my students about. And so, I was having these feelings, and I also, as department chair, I was able to learn new skills that I had, or skills that I had previously, but was applying those, leadership skills and organizing people, and I really enjoyed that. So I was just kind of feeling like I needed a change, and then this position opened up, and I took a chance and tried something new, and it's worked out pretty well so far. As far as what my duty, I also, before I say this, I want to say, because I think this is important for our students who are listening, I didn't even know that this position existed. I have been a professional for 12 years. I didn't know that this position existed until I saw the job posting and applied for it, and now it's my job. So you don't know all of the things that are out there, and so this focus on skills is really important. So what I do now in this role is, one of the things I do is bring people together to have conversations about different things that are threatening our environment, and then also to talk about solutions to those threats, and then put those solutions into action as well. Usually that means having conversations. So a lot of what I haven't done a lot of this yet, but will be moving forward in the new year, talking to decision makers and government elected officials to talk about, to explain to them what the issues are and recommend some solutions and work together to implement some of those solutions. I also write articles for the newspaper sometimes, or give public presentations to educate anybody who wants to be educated about environmental issues, so that the ultimate goal is to make everyone in the area better understand the issues that exist. And I'm specifically focusing on environmental issues related to water. So that's pretty much it for my duties, although new stuff pops up all the time.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. So for students who are interested in natural resources and their preservation, what kinds of job opportunities exist?
So there are a lot of different places where you can work on this. The most obvious place is to work for Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. That's our Pennsylvania level, state level agency that addresses these issues. But there's also the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, but lots of other government agencies too. And there's lots of different levels where you can work for government agencies too. You can do it with a bachelor degree, a master's degree, or a PhD. But you can also be a researcher, you can be an educator, you can work for a zoo. One of the major things that zoos do is conservation efforts. You can work for parks, you can work for, you could work for Parks and Recreation at the county level. Museums also do conservation work. Or you can do something like what I do, and that's work for a nonprofit, and my job is to advocate or educate different people at different levels about the issues. So it's really, and there are probably 10 more places where you could do this work. There's a lot of different opportunities in natural resources.
Right. So, wow, I guess I didn't realize that. So there are so many different kinds of sciences. There are lots of different careers that fall within them. So what advice would you give students who have an interest in science and want to explore different subject areas to refine their focus?
Sure. I would say don't specialize too soon. So if you're just generally interested in science, I would say take as many different types of science classes as you can in high school. Take chemistry, take earth science, take biology, take physics, figure out which one you like, and then maybe take an advanced placement class, an AP class or something else. And that might help you figure out where you want to go. But even if you don't, even if you don't know, by the time, if you do go to college, I still had to take chemistry and physics and biology, and math is also really important in the sciences. So, and then I'll also say that in natural resources, you can work as a chemist, as a geologist, as a biologist. You can get a degree in fisheries and wildlife management. You can, it really is a huge field. So my main, for the young students who are watching today, I'll say, just make sure that you explore lots of different sciences to help yourself figure out where it is that you'd like to be.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sarah. Do any of the other panelists want to comment on that question? With so many sciences being available, how do students kind of narrow it down?
I'm just going to jump in and say I agree with Sarah. Be flexible. You don't always know what's going to work for you. And until you really get out there and explore in the real world, it's hard to know which of those things. Some people know right away, but most don't. I thought accounting was for me. And 3 years in, I thought maybe not. And so we adjusted, and I've used my accounting throughout all of my career. It was a great skill and occupation to pursue because it's helped me all the way through. But at the end of the day, I'm not an accountant or a bookkeeper. So I would say be flexible, listen to what others tell you, and learn more. Keep those skills broad, as Sarah said.
And I would, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, I think as you're in school, you have a really great resource right there in front of you. Your science teachers have a great areas, and it's worth, taking a little time after school and sit with them and ask them questions, pick their brains, share with them what you're interested in, and let them offer you some ideas. Most people really enjoy talking about that kind of stuff with people. So who are willing to help.
Okay. Thanks, Lynn. Dennis,
Yes.
did you have something you'd want to add?
Okay, relative to that, yes. I think there is a general consensus that the sciences are very difficult, and so students are often sort of pushed away from it and said, oh, you need to do something easier, etc. But I think once students, if they have an aptitude or they like it, I often talk to students when they're coming into our department and sit down with them and say, do you have a interest in the sciences? Have you taken science classes? They say yes, but it's not my favorite or anything like that. But I tell them that if you have a background in the sciences, you have an aptitude for it, take as many science classes as you can, as they said, to explore, and it'll only benefit you. You'll sort of figure out what type of disciplines you're good at and what you have to work on. And so I would suggest at the high school level that the students try to take as many science classes as they can if they have an aptitude for that.
Great, thanks, Dennis. Okay, Jen, do we have any questions for Sarah before we move on?
No questions right now.
Okay, great. Sarah, thank you. So Dennis, now I'm going to turn to you.
Okay.
You are a forensic anthropologist. So what does a forensic anthropologist do? How did you become interested in that field? And what do you like least and most about your career?
Adding all three questions at once, Mary. Yeah.
Well, there's more to come after that, Dennis.
We'll go one at a time.
Okay.
As I said, I'm a professor, so I teach anthropology, physical anthropology, and forensic anthropology. And forensic anthropology is the science of basically when you find human remains in forensic settings. What the forensic anthropologists are in charge of trying to figure out from the biological tissues, who is this individual? What was their age and sex and stature and all that? And historically, the discipline started off with just a focus on the human bones. And so we were known as experts in human bones. My background at the University of Pittsburgh was a little broader, and in addition to studying animal bones and human bones, I also had a second major in archaeology. And so when I came out with my PhD and came up to Mercyhurst, I saw that there was an opportunity to be able to use those skills in combination. The field of forensic anthropology is very young. It basically started in the 70s, and I'm now getting pretty old, and so I was there sort of in the beginning. And what I saw is that there was a need to not only just look at the bones, because the police would go to the scenes and collect the remains and lose some information there. And what I saw from my background, and I didn't start out this way, my background was also in archaeology. And so I saw that there was a need to apply archaeological method there to properly collect the human remains, and not just to say, okay, this individual stood 5'6" and was a female, etc. But it was more to what the police do at an indoor scene. They try to figure out what happened at that scene. And so what I saw at the outdoor scene is that the police and nobody was really dealing with what was going on and trying to figure out what was happening at the scene in the past. And so then I decided to sort of devote my focus, my career on addressing that and melding the science of osteology, which is bones, as well as with archaeology. And so back in the 80s there, developed the field of forensic archaeology and some of the subsidiary type disciplines. And so that in not a short nutshell, but that is forensic anthropology today. So we're involved with many cases in which the police come upon remains in the outdoor setting, and fire scenes and buried bodies, and we've even dealt with mass disasters. And so they will call us, forensic anthropology team, and we'll go to assist them in processing the scene. So we're actively involved with the forensic scenes, and I'm often asked by students and say, I'd like to get into forensic sciences and I want to deal with crime scenes, but I often tell them that is sort of in the purview of police officers, etc. So you may have to go become a police officer and then eventually have the opportunities to work at the crime scene. But what we do in forensic anthropology, we're at the head of the class there, and we're often called to come and help process the scene. So that for me is what forensic anthropology is. It's much broader. It utilizes all of the scientific disciplines from biology to chemistry to physics to math, et cetera, et cetera. And so what I've tried to do is bring in all of those sciences, and not just to study the bones, but all of them to try to figure out what happens at that outdoor scene. I started off, my interest was in bones when I was growing up in outside of Greensburg, Pennsylvania. And when I went to school, I went to study anthropology. I had studied the articles in National Geographic. And then when I went to Pitt, then I saw there was anthropology and archaeology and physical anthropology, and was able to take advantage of that background to then come up to Mercyhurst here and then develop the program in forensic anthropology. The third question was?
What do you like least and most about your career?
Probably the thing that I like least is paperwork and all that. I'd prefer to be in the laboratory and teaching, etc. But paperwork as a chair of a department, as Sarah knows, it's a lot of paperwork. That's not my cup of tea. The most that I like is the rest of it and interacting with the students, both at the undergraduate level, the graduate students. You know, we'll get a call in the afternoon and say we have a case, and head off to Harrisburg and gather the students, and so those are some of the best times.
So Dennis, we have a question from a student. How fragile are bones?
They're not that fragile. They're only fragile when they've been sitting out in the woods for 20 years or they've been burned, then they become very fragile. But otherwise, I mean, they day to day take the weight of people running, etc. And so the bones are pretty solid materials.
Okay. Another question. You've worked all around the world. Can you tell us about a couple of projects or one project you've been engaged in that was particularly meaningful to you?
Well, we've worked with some human rights teams throughout the world, in Chile and Argentina, Peru, and a few years ago we were in Cyprus helping the teams train them in basically this new concept, this new paradigm in forensic anthropology. So that was very, and we've also had some students from those human rights teams come in and get master students with our program. So that's been pretty rewarding. One of the foci of my career has been on how we deal with outdoor scenes and specifically mass disaster scenes. So I've been involved in 5 or 6 plane crashes and trying to figure out how we would process that as if it were a forensic scene. So I was involved with Flight 93 down in Somerset at 9/11. I was the scientific advisor for the coroner there. And then in 2009, there was a crash up in Buffalo, and the medical examiner gave us the go-ahead to lead the excavation and the recovery of the victims from that one. So those are some of the most rewarding ones.
Okay. Another student question is, how does it feel to be at a real scene?
Well, usually when we go there, we have a job to do. And so each one is very different. So you have to sort of take each one in and figure out what you're trying to get out of it. When we go to these scenes, often the police have a hypothesis of who the person was or what happened. And what I see is our role is we're going to go in and test that hypothesis from a scientific point of view. So each case is very different. And the police call us to come in and assist them. They're not really familiar how you would deal with an outdoor scene, deal with branches and leaf litter and things like that. And so they're perfectly comfortable allowing us to process the scene. So each one is very different. Each one is very rewarding because I know we do a great job with these.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dennis. Okay, we're going to move on now to Lynn. Lynn, so you've spent almost 30 years at UPMC Hammett securing roles with increasing responsibility and becoming part of the management team. You're also in charge of physician recruitment. What skills or personal attributes are keys to success at UPMC Hammett? And are there any restrictions that would keep someone from being considered for a hospital job?
So I think healthcare is probably the most wonderful place to work. And of course, that's why I'm still there almost 30 years later. I think the key attributes that everyone who wants to go into healthcare need to consider, you have to be a good communicator, and you're hearing that pretty consistently from many people who are speaking today. So being interested in being around people and reaching a common ground, compassion, empathy, kindness. You have to be collaborative, definitely, and be able to do teamwork projects. Everything nowadays in healthcare really is multidisciplinary teams, and a willingness to help anyone with whatever it is that comes up. In my day, I'm in administration now, but because of everything going on in the world, I was working on the floors today and helping people right at the bedside. Every day is different and crazy. No matter what you're doing, you can jump in anywhere to help out. So it's really about being a hard worker, being willing to put your heart and soul into it, but knowing you're helping people at their most vulnerable points in life. And it's very, very rewarding, no matter what your job is. There really isn't a lot that would keep you from being in healthcare if that's an interest to you. If you have a history of serious legal offenses, that would definitely keep you out of being in a hospital job. But for the most part, if you have an interest and want to be a hard worker, we can find a spot for you somewhere.
Great. Jen, I think we had a question from a student for Lynn. Could you tell us what that question was?
Yeah, a student asked earlier what it's like to be a physical therapist. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I am still a licensed physical therapist, and actually my morning was spent being one on one of the floors today. So I do truly love it. I think it's very good for people who enjoy problem solving. So if you like trying to figure things out, generally what you're presented with is some type of problem. Someone has back pain, someone's having trouble walking. You look at what that issue is, and then you try to figure out why it's happening, and then figure out solutions. And it's a lot of trial and error. You make your best assessment of what you think the problem is. You implement some solutions. You see if they work. Depending on the patient's response, you try something else. So I think it's a great field for people who enjoy that type of activity, where you're looking for answers and solutions, you're willing to be creative and implement different things at different times. And really, it doesn't have to be, as a physical therapist. Right now, as a physical therapist, you get a doctorate in physical therapy. And for some people, that seems very daunting. But you can get involved in the field as a physical therapy aide, or in the hospital, we have what's called mobility techs, who are people who are on the floor, and it's on-the-job training. And they get involved with helping people to mobilize. Up to, there's an associate degree as a physical therapy assistant, and then physical therapist would be the next. But there's lots of ways to get into the area and kind of try out and see if you like it.
Great. That leads into another question that I had for you. You talked a little bit now about different levels of jobs that are available in the physical therapy arena, but generally speaking, what are some other kinds of jobs that exist within the hospital setting?
Yeah, I think that, the key, and I want to stress it over and over again, there really is an entry point for anybody who's interested in working in the hospital setting. So, someone just coming out who wants to experience and talk to people in different areas, you can start in our environmental services department, in our dietary department, as a transporter, who's someone who moves patients from their rooms to different testing. And that really doesn't require any experience. If you have experience, that's helpful, but many people just come in and apply for those jobs, and we are always looking for people in those areas. And as Janet had mentioned, it's a great way to get your foot in the door. We do have a lot of scholarship opportunities and a lot of on-the-job training of opportunities. So if people want to advance in the healthcare area, come on in and apply for one of those jobs, get your foot in the door, you start seeing what you're interested in, and then you can start tailoring a pathway to get yourself somewhere else. And like I said, many of the career training opportunities are right there at the workplace, or there's scholarships for schools across the area. On-the-job training, there are positions as patient care technicians and nursing assistants. So those jobs require a little bit of experience in the hospital, but then you can move up into those roles and work directly on a floor with the nursing units. There are certificate roles like surgical scrub tech or a CPD, central processing department technician. Those are people who work with equipment and tools that go in the OR. We talked about rehab. Physical therapy is part of rehab, but there's also occupational therapy, speech therapy, a radiology technologist, which are the people who help with MRIs, CT scans, mammograms. Those types of jobs can be a certificate to a 2-year degree to a 4-year degree, and you can kind of move through the career that way. Nurse practitioners and physician assistants who are assisting the physicians. Those can be a 4 or a 6-year degree, depending on where you go with it. And then, of course, the traditional role as a physician. And I'll tell you, many of our physicians that are on staff with us now started back as a transport or in the dietary department or as a patient care technician. Some of them moved on to being physician assistants and then went on to get their physician degree at a later point. So it really opens many doors if you just get started with us. And nursing is a great role as well. And Karen, who's with me here on the panel, is working on opening a 2-year nursing degree that's going to be available. And there are many of those programs around. There's also an LPN degree. And then you can go on from there to get a 4-year degree. Myself, I started as a physical therapist. I still love being a physical therapist. I didn't leave it because I didn't. I just got asked to do some other things along the way that were very interesting, and I took the opportunity. And that's the great thing about healthcare. Once you get your foot in the door, there's a lot of avenues open to you. And it can start with someone just graduating high school and getting their foot in the door, seeing what they like.
So question for Karen. Lynn, thank you for that. Karen, the 2-year nursing degree program, will somebody, can they enter that right out of high school, or do they have to go to some other additional schooling first? And will they become employed as a nurse once they graduate?
Great questions. And it's a little faster than 2 years. It's actually a 16-month program. So students would start in August of 2021 and graduate in December of 2022, and then be eligible to take the licensing exam. From there, they'd be have an opportunity to enter into any position that requires a registered nurse. Because it's a fast track program, doesn't devalue it. It is just the quickest way to create a nurse. And yes, high school graduates can start in the program. There are some prerequisite classes that are required for them to have as high school students and graduates. So it would just take a review of their transcripts. And if they were interested in starting in our inaugural class in August, maybe some advisement on what courses they should take for the second half of their senior year to make sure that they meet those requirements. But we're looking at hopefully admitting 50 students into our program, and we want to see as many of those come from our local area as possible.
And how does somebody learn more about the program?
Really easy. I'll give you a phone number that you won't forget, and that is 877-NURS. That's my phone number. It will come right to me, so feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to consult with folks one-on-one.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jen, did we have any questions for Lynn before we move on?
No more questions for Lynn.
Okay, I have one more question for Lynn. Lynn, what's the best way for students to learn about hospital career opportunities and consider their interest?
So there are generally a lot of shadowing opportunities in the hospital. During these pandemic times, of course, we've had to limit the people coming into the hospital. But healthcare workers are notoriously welcoming to talk to students at any point in time. So it is as easy as picking up the phone, calling the main desk at the hospital, which is 877-6000, and ask for the education department. That department can hook you up with whatever particular area of interest. I have students actually reach out to me all the time and just ask about, in general, what's it like to work in healthcare. And I would really recommend just reach out. And once we get past all this pandemic time, which, you know, there's some light at the end of the tunnel coming here with the vaccine starting, we'll get back to letting students come in and shadow and volunteer with us.
Great, thank you. Okay, Melanie, I'm going to turn to you now.
Yes.
So my first question for you is this. You are an administrator at LECOM Institute for Successful Aging. What is the Institute for Successful Aging, and what do your job duties entail?
Thank you. The LECOM Institute for Successful Aging is led by our president, Dr. James Lynn, and it's a full continuum of services for seniors. It begins with primary care, like your physician's office. We have skilled nursing facilities where people come either for rehabilitation or they come for long-term care that they may need. We have personal care facilities where people come and live in an apartment. They get help with their activities of daily living, bathing, dressing, food, transportation. We have independent living where folks just get some light help. They live in an apartment and they get some transportation and some activities and things like that. We also have home care where aides and nurses aides can come into your home and help you if you need help with the activities of daily living. And we have home health where people can get hospice, they can get skilled nursing care in their home. And we also have a daycare program opening up. It's really a full continuum of anything you would need in terms of services as a senior. And it's, I think, the only one in Northwestern Pennsylvania, so I'm proud to be a part of it. What I do, for the first 5 years, my title was Director of Operations. And I can't stress enough what most everyone else has said, is your ability to have relationships that are successful with people, to be able to cooperate, to be a team member. One of my main jobs was managing relationships with patients, or residents we call them, with their families, with all the staff that serve them, with the community at large, the services that come into the building. And to be able to be successful at that is one of the most important things that I had to do and enjoyed doing. And it's a key to success. And that's something you should work on if it's hard for you. And being a good team member, if your primary motivation is to career build, people can feel that. And I don't think in the long run, folks are successful as if they generally and genuinely have a heart for caring for people, for serving people. And in the long run, if you have a passion for this type of service, that, you know, is where you're going to be most successful. In addition to that, you know, my responsibility was to manage everything, the budgets, the marketing, but for the purpose of the audience here, you know, all the departments. So food service, you could be a server in high school, and you could be a chef, and you could be a cook, and you could be a person who transports the food. Housekeeping, you could start as a part-time housekeeper. You could be a full-time housekeeper. You can work in activities as an activity aide. You can go all the way up to being a recreational therapist. The nursing departments, you can start as an aide. In personal care, you don't even need to be a certified aide. We train you, and the state of Pennsylvania has a program that you take, so you can start that way. And you know, you've heard many times that the career ladders are so important, and I really believe in volunteering. So we have a wonderful volunteer program, and it is limited because of COVID right now, but you can become involved in that, and that's a great way to try things out, to see what you have a passion for, and to, you know, see where your entry level might be in an organization. So I love volunteer programming, and I had the opportunity to supervise that as well. So in any department serving seniors, there's some type of a career ladder, some place that you can start, even if it is at a volunteer level. And you can serve seniors and be a variety of things, a physical therapist, a recreational therapist. There's just so many opportunities to serve seniors.
So Melanie, question, when you're talking about seniors, what age level are you talking about?
Well, the Institute for Successful Aging in the practice takes people 50 and older. Our typical folks are, you know, depending on what service they're taking, they might be in their 60s if they're going to daycare or some of those services. Our average age in personal care is 83. And we have residents up to 103, 104 years old. So it's a continuum.
Okay, so a lot of what you just said sounds very similar to what Lynn said in terms of various opportunities that exist within the environment in senior living in your institute versus in a hospital. You know, are there any major differences that might make somebody think I'd rather go into a senior living setting or I would rather go into a hospital setting?
I think so. I mean, I think it's commonly known that hospital stays tend to be shorter. There are acute issues that they're dealing with, maybe a surgery or a heart attack or something, and the stays are short. People come and go, they're admitted and discharged, and they provide a wonderful service. And it's maybe even a higher skill level in some cases, depending on why you're there. In senior living, you know, our average length of stay has varied over the years, but it's around 3.5 years in independent living. So you actually get to know these people very well. You have see them on their journey. You can help them, they call it age in place. So, you know, you might start out with a very independent person in an exercise program that just comes twice a week, and you might know them. I have known people for 20, 25 years and seen them and helped to facilitate their successful aging. And that is very rewarding.
Gotcha. So that was going to be my next question. You touched on it a little bit earlier, and you just did again now, but what, I guess I'm going to ask you in one more different way, what have you found to be the most fulfilling part of your career? And why would you recommend students consider a pathway that falls within the senior living realm?
Okay, well, I have found it very rewarding because, you know, I started out in business, and in my 3rd year of college, I took a problem of aging course, and I knew that I wanted to work with older people. And for a while, I was a banker, and I just didn't see the world the same way. So I changed, not that I didn't like banking, but love to facilitate people's successful aging, seeing the successes that they have and the happiness that they have with the friends that they live with and the continuing learning that takes place. And I also love to facilitate careers. I mean, I love watching somebody in high school who's, you know, a server or a dishwasher go to, you know, become an aide in our program that we train them, and then become a certified aide, and then go to nursing school. I mean, that is so rewarding to follow people for a long period of time, and to be, you know, to get to know them very well and to facilitate their success, whether it's in a career or whether it's in their aging process.
Great, thank you. Jen, do we have any questions for Melanie at this point?
No new questions.
Okay, I think we had one a while ago for Dennis that I'd like to go back and visit before we kind of wrap up.
You asked the question that had to do with the bones. Yeah.
I found it. So what should students get into subject-wise if they want to have a job in something to do with forensic science?
Well, the first step is to go to college. Even if you're interested in going into law enforcement, like say the Pennsylvania State Police, they require an undergraduate degree. And so someone who's interested in the sciences at the high school level, when I talk to them and they're coming in, is take as many of the natural science classes as you can. That way you can see what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you can work at, et cetera. And so those are some of the more difficult courses and disciplines that you'll be involved in. And if you can handle that and do well, not be afraid of it, then the world is your oyster, and you can do a lot of things with that.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so I have one question now for all of the panelists before we wrap up. So if you could leave students with one last piece of advice about pursuing opportunities in the science and health career pathway, what would that be? And Sarah, I'm going to start with you.
Advice on pursuing careers. I like the advice that we've heard already, and that's to be flexible and open to new opportunities, and don't be afraid to take a risk or put yourself in a new situation. You're going to learn the most about yourself when you take those leaps and yeah, get out of your comfort zone.
Okay, thank you. Janet?
It's okay not to know what you want to do right now. Take time now while you're in school to explore opportunities. Use some of the things that we've heard here today. Career Street is a great option. I'm a big believer, so I keep saying it. While you're in school, take advantage of that. You know, do shadowing, do volunteering, listen to your mentors. I think those are all really important things, and know that it's okay not to know right here and now, or even when you start your journey where you're going to land or what you want to be.
Thanks. Lynn, we just had a question for you. Okay, there it is, 877-6000. I just wanted to confirm that. But Lynn, your one piece of advice.
So my recommendation would be get on the internet if you want to get into healthcare and Google types of careers in healthcare, and just start reading little blurbs about what each area is about. And that number's right there. I'll tell you, if you call a hospital and say, ask for the education department, you can ask for me as well. But you say, I want to speak to someone about being a nurse. I want to speak to somebody about working in environmental services or the dietary department. They're going to connect you with the leader of that department, who's going to be more than happy to talk to you about it. But start getting an idea of what sounds interesting and what it would take. And the internet is a great place to learn all about many different things.
Thank you. Karen?
To piggyback on what Lynn said, exactly that. I liken it to eating off the buffet. You want to sample a lot of little things, and then go back for seconds and thirds when you figure out the thing you like best. But it's okay to try out multiple options before you decide on where you want to be.
Thank you. Dennis?
I think the main thing is when you're in high school is, there may be some classes that you don't like, but it's always to do your best and work very hard, because you never know what opportunities arise. And we talk at Mercyhurst about seizing the moment, seizing the opportunities. And I saw that in my career. I was on one path, and then some opportunities arose with some of the graduate students, and I fell right into that, and that led to my career. So you never know what's going to be out there, but always work hard. Never slack and say, I don't like this subject, and I'll devote all my energy to one or the other. So it's work hard throughout.
Thank you. And Melanie?
Mine is follow your bliss, or do what you're passionate about. You may have to try a few things to find that. Volunteer, start at an entry-level position, but do what you love.
Great, thank you. And Jen, we don't have any additional questions from attendees, right?
That's everything at this point.
Okay, great, thank you. So thank you everyone so much for being here tonight. That wraps up our event. We're grateful to the speakers who participated. We're grateful to the students and the parents who have been here, and we hope you found that tonight's event was valuable. This is only the second one of these sessions that we've done, so we really want to get some feedback from people who participated about what they liked about it, what they thought could be improved, so we can continue to make improvements on this moving forward. So within the next few days, I will send out a survey, real brief, to get your input and your thoughts on tonight's event. If you could please take a couple minutes to complete that, we'd really appreciate it, because we want to make sure we're providing students and families with things that are helpful to them as they think about the future. And with that, I think we can wrap things up. Again, thank you for being here tonight, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.